Tapas Yoga. My name is Tarini, and I am very excited to present this video to you all today as an introduction to the 8-limbed path of yoga. But before we get started, I would like it if you would join me in just taking a few deep breaths so we can just jump into this thing with a clear mind, clear focus, and be able to absorb the information in a more well-rounded state. So if you would allow me to guide you through this quick breathing practice, find a seat, stand, whatever it is that you're doing, get comfortable where you are so that you are firmly settled and rooted into that space. If you're seated upright, allow your shoulders to soften. If you are laying down, allow your body to just be fully supported by the ground, the bed, the couch, wherever you are. Let your eyes soften or let them close fully. And through your nostrils, take a deep breath in, filling your lungs way down deep in the diaphragm, letting your belly expand too. And then also through your nostrils, take a deep exhale, slowly letting the air seep out. Good, another big inhale through the nose. Exhale from the nose. 2 more times. Inhale through the nose. Exhale from the nose. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Let your breathing come back to a more natural pattern, a natural pace. But still letting your focus stay on inhale and exhale. Allow your eyes to slowly take on light. So thank you for indulging me in that practice. I hope you're feeling a little bit more clear and ready to take in this information. So what I'm showing you today is just a brief introduction to the 8 limbs of yoga. We'll be spending some time throughout the next 9 months learning even more about each one of them in depth. But today, just an introductory. So allow yourself to get comfortable, settle in, and open your ears, open your mind, open your heart to the information that you're about to receive today. If you've never heard of the 8-limbed path, it is something that was derived from the Yoga Sutras. And the Yoga Sutras are a body of work that was compiled by Patanjali. Well, who is Patanjali? So Patanjali is an ancient Indian philosopher and author who is believed to have compiled the Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras is a collection of aphorisms on the practice of yoga. So contemporary yoga tradition holds the Yoga Sutras as a foundational text of classical yoga philosophy. And modern yoga in the West has kind of strayed from the importance of many of the sutras. So my goal today is just give you an introduction to the 8 limbs as described in the Yoga Sutras. So over the next 9 months, we'll be learning more about each limb, as well as how you can apply them into your daily practice, as well as in life in general. So to start, the Yoga Sutras, one of the copies looks just like this. This is a fantastic place to start, and it's a fairly easy read. It is a little on the formal side as far as verbiage and structure, but it's a very profound read. And if you don't want to read it from, beginning to end, you can kind of treat it like, do you remember Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul? Or that's just the chicken soup for the ... series. You can treat it kind of like that and find a section that speaks to you. Sometimes I just like to open up a random page and see what's there and read through it and allow it to provide me with inspiration for the day. So to start, let's just get right into what the 8 limbs of yoga are. First we have Yamas, Niyamas, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. All of these are ways for you to essentially get to the point of Samadhi. Samadhi generally just means the release of suffering or bliss, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I want to start from the very beginning. But the first of the 8 limbs is the yamas. There are 5 yamas, and they are seen as a practice of restraints, or external practices that you can do to just start the process of releasing yourself from that suffering, finding the samadhi, and building habits and a life and ethics that allow you to be in a space to receive samadhi. So to start, the first of the yamas is Ahimsa. And you'll probably hear that term quite a lot in yogic spaces. I think it's one of the most popular of the yamas. But in its very most basic understanding of Ahimsa is nonviolence, or not doing harm, or if you want to put a more positive spin on it, being compassionate with others. So that's kind of the mindset I take with it. I try to think outside the box of what Ahimsa could mean to me, aside from just not harming people physically, or with my words maybe, or with my actions. How can I show more compassion to other people? How can I be more open-minded? How can I not be discriminatory against things that I may not be familiar with? You know, things of that nature. Those are also considered practices of Ahimsa, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but just so you kind of start thinking about it, that is Ahimsa in a nutshell. Next we have Satya. And Satya is the practice of not lying or truthfulness. When it boils down to Satya, it generally resonates around honesty. And that can, of course, be honesty to self, honesty to others, speaking your true soul's expression. I like to view Satya in a way that my 300-hour yoga teacher training instructor introduced me to, and it was using open communication to really do my best to resolve conflicts, to speak that soul truth that I had mentioned. And it's really changed a lot for me in how I speak to myself and how I speak to others. And it's become one of my favorite of the yamas to practice, because I was doing a lot of things that weren't very Ahimsa-ish when speaking to myself, and thus it carried into how I behaved and spoke towards others. So it's changed a lot for me, and I'm still a work in progress and always going to be, because it's just the way of the world. Next we have Asteya. And Asteya is the practice of not stealing or not coveting things that are not yours. And I still like to take a more positive spin on it and think of it as honoring what other people have created and not using it in a way that is to benefit me and not the originator. One practice that comes to mind is cultural appropriation. That is a huge example of how not to be in Asteya. And it's something to be very mindful of while being a Black yoga instructor that, to my knowledge, does not have any ties to the ancient Indian practice. And I'm sure that my ancestors have a connection to the African lineage of it, but that is not something that I am fully versed on or understand, and I'm working on learning more because I am such a nerd about this stuff. But Asteya is a common practice for me as a Black person in this space, wanting to ensure that I am not coveting this practice in a way that is dishonoring where it came from, dishonoring the people that are still, of this heritage and lineage, and being able to share it coming from a space of compassion and non-harm. See how they're all kind of tying together? Next in the yamas, we have Brahmacharya. And Brahmacharya can be considered chastity, or pulling yourself away from, or setting healthy and clear boundaries. A lot of times this particular yama is attributed to sexual chastity, or abstaining, or celibacy. But it can mean so many other things, because we live in a modern world. We understand it's not possible all the time for everyone to practice abstinence or celibacy, especially married couples, or someone in a committed relationship. It may happen, but You can also practice Brahmacharya in other ways by setting clear boundaries, not indulging too much in things that may cause you that harm and take you out of that Ahimsa space. For me, I think of it as protecting my energy, physically and spiritually too. So setting up those practices, setting up those boundaries and being firm on them and disciplined enough to keep them around so that I can live life in a way that isn't going against the path that I'm on. And then finally, of the Yamas, we have Aparigraha. And again, I apologize if my pronunciation is a little off. I'm still working on my Sanskrit, even to this day, 11 years later. But Aparigraha is the practice of non-possessiveness or non-grasping. You hear it a lot, potentially, in yoga spaces that you'll go to, of letting go, releasing, non-attachment, not being attached to certain things. And that practice is essentially about allowing yourself the freedom to just experience without holding on too tight to a notion, a concept, or even a physical thing. It's definitely easy to adapt it into your physical asana practice, because there are times where in the physical practice we get very caught up in almost a competitive way. How I look in this pose, or how I did that pose, and how I can improve on this, and very attached to what's going on with the physical practice. And that was one of the best ways for me to realize that I was actually working on my ability to release the grasp that the physical practice had on me, or at least the chase that I had on certain postures. And it allowed me this freedom to be able to just experience and live and enjoy the practice without thinking I need to work more on this or I need to work more on that. It was so freeing. So I implore you to think about that the next time you go to a practice and you start getting in your head about how you may look in a posture, or the posture that's particularly tricky for you, and you're working really hard to get at it. Can you release some of that expectation that you have on yourself in order to get to that posture? Now, after the Yamas, we have the Niyamas, which are more internal practices, though some of them can be expressed externally, like this first one, Saucha. Saucha is the practice of cleanliness or purity. And if you want to think of it more in a physical way or an external way, it could literally mean the cleanliness of your home space, the cleanliness of your practice space, but it's also referring to cleanliness of body, mind, and spirit. So there are specific practices that you can take on that would be, on the hygienic scale, the purifications, which we could get into later. Let me know in the comments if you want to learn a little bit more about the purifications, because they are quite interesting. It's been a while since I've practiced all of them, but some of them still are ways that find their way into your daily hygiene practices. But again, Saucha is so much more than just physical cleanliness of your body, your home space. It's about clearing your mind and clearing your spirit. So saying things like, I maintain a clear and pure mind, bodies, and surroundings, inviting Aparigraha into your mind and releasing yourself of things that no longer serve you, that last of the Yamas. So those are some ways that you could practice Saucha. Next we have Santosha. This is another common term that you may hear. This means contentment or joy, happiness, acceptance even, or optimism. And this is more about the practice of understanding and accepting joy, about nourishing the contentment from within, and finding pleasure in present moments instead of being stuck in the past, but just enjoying what's happening in the now. It's a practice that I have grown to truly appreciate over my years of practicing yoga, because as a person that deals with depression, anxiety, and PTSD, it's fairly easy to get pulled back into things that kind of pull you out of the moment and take you a little too much into your mind, or a little too much into things that happened in the past. or worried about things that are going to happen in the future. And instead, it allows me to feel so much more rooted in the now and being able to stay present and experience what's happening right in front of my face. And it's been a great experience to be able to adopt that into my life a little bit more, and I feel so much more alert and here and alive instead of just going through the motions, if that makes any sense. After Santosha, we have Tapas, and Tapas roughly translates to self-discipline or perseverance and staying the course on the practices that you're doing. Having a sadhana or a daily practice is a great way to express tapas in your life. You know, using that fire within to keep you going in the things that you're doing in life and even in your practices of yoga. Sometimes it could be seen as creating rituals, like what you do in the morning for your daily skincare, or, you know, just anything that you could come to mind in ways that you can commit to the same thing that brings that type of routine, that type of discipline into your life to put you on that path forward. And it doesn't always have to be the same thing, but at least it's, you know, that plan, that drive, that push to keep you going. After tapas, we have Svadhyaya. And Svadhyaya, I know I said that Santosha was probably my favorite of the Niyamas, but Svadhyaya has become a close second, if not tied, for favorite. Svadhyaya is the practice of self-study or self-exploration or inquiry, really diving deep into yourself to understand yourself more, being really introspective and understanding you so much more allows you to be able to understand everything else around you so much more, because you are one of many and part of a much bigger picture. Yes, our world seems small because we are but one person, but we make up one of a collective. And if we don't have an understanding of what's going on here, how can we be a part of a collective? Catch my drift? Svadhyaya has been with me this entire time that I've been practicing yoga. I've always wanted to have a better understanding of me and why I do certain things and what makes me tick. And coming into the practice of yoga was exactly that. I wanted to study myself more. I wanted to get to know me more, understand me more, so that I could be a better person, not just for myself, but for my family, my friends, the community, everything. And it has changed my life probably the most out of all of these practices that I'm introducing you to today. And finally, with our Niyamas, we have Isvara, Pranidhana. And this one can be seen a little bit more on the controversial side because it depends on how you interpret it. But ultimately, Isvara Pranidhana is about devotion or being attuned to a supreme consciousness, or at least your devotion to a higher power, if you will, whatever it is that you are devoted to. But it's essentially just understanding that you are aware that we are all interconnected by something greater than just us. And it doesn't matter what you believe, because if you really think about it, a lot of religions, share a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same history, a lot of the same stories. And it's this beautiful weaving and interconnectedness that we all have. And Isvara Pranidhana is the practice of that. By deepening your spiritual practices, you deepen your connection to that weaving or that intersection of us all as one. So those are the Yamas and Niyamas, and they can be a little meaty to talk about that because there's 5 of them in each. But after both the Yamas and the Niyamas, we have Asana. And Asana is the thing that pretty much everybody in the West now knows. If you've heard yoga, you're probably thinking of asana. And asana is the physical practice of the postures in order to prep your body for meditation and just life in general. But over the years, the asanas have taken on a life of their own, and they have, of course, great physical benefits, but they also have additional benefits like spiritual opening, awakenedness. And if you apply the yamas and niyamas in your physical practice, it really changes the game as far as how you experience yoga, as if you're just coming to it as just an asana practice. So I'm really excited for you all to learn some ways to integrate that into things, because yes, we all know and love the asanas, but there's so much more. And then after asana, we have pranayama. Pranayama is one of my favorites. It is the practice of breath control, or if you want to also think of it more on a deeper context, it's the practice of life force and energy manipulation or control. In yoga, prana translates to breath technically, but it's really about prana is that life force energy from within you. The breath is the vessel of prana, because without breath, there is no life. So prana and breath are essentially synonymous and interchangeable on occasion. So when you think of pranayama, the breath control allows you to control the energy that's flowing from within you. And if you notice the word prana and yama, yama being restraints and prana being energy or life force or breath restraint, life force or energy restraint. And it is a beautiful experience to just be in so much focus and awareness and attunement with your breath and your internal energy. And it's amazing what you can discover when you take on a pranayama practice. So I'm really excited to show you guys that one when that month comes. I can't wait. After pranayama, we have pratyahara. Pratyahara is a practice of withdrawal from the senses. And I know you, as soon as you hear that, you're like, how in the world am I going to do that in this crazy busy world? I know, it's difficult, but it's a great way to practice pulling yourself away from things that would distract you because they are creating some type of sensory stimuli, or giving you the practice of focusing on just one stimuli, so that way the rest of your senses are, pulled away from all the other stimulus going on. A lot of it can just boil down to just being able to rest deeply and enjoy a clear mind, being attached from the external world. So if it means finding a quiet room to sit in and, talk to a camera, or if it's, finding a quiet corner in your office where you can pull yourself away from the noise of it all, the sounds of it all, to maybe turn off the lights and allow yourself a moment to focus. And even if you don't have the ability to find a quiet, dark space, how can you make it so that you are not so affected by the things going on around you? And that practice is probably the trickiest for me, because I am very attuned and aware to all of what's going on around me. So it is a lot easier for me to practice pratyahara in quiet, dark spaces, because otherwise I am going to probably find the shiny thing to focus on. After pratyahara, we have dharana. And dharana is roughly translated to the practice of mindfulness. And mindfulness is a very popular term right about now, or at least over the last few years. Folks have been very focused on being mindful, especially since TikTok took over that word. Oh my goodness. But when you're thinking of mindfulness, it's more of a one-pointed focus. Taking your thoughts, your focus right into one singular space and letting it stay there, and then allowing your thoughts to kind of bloom into this space of knowing and understanding what's going on in that time and that place. And it's a very beautiful practice as well, to pull yourself out of spaces where maybe you're a little anxious, a little tense, and maybe you are trying to practice pratyahara and withdraw yourself from all the sensory stimuli. Having that single pointed focus can help tune out the rest of those things that are going on around you. So dharana and pratyahara, for me, tend to work hand in hand sometimes, or at least dharana allows me to be better at practicing pratyahara. So that's it in a nutshell. So dhyana is the practice of meditation, or at least maintaining a focus that's very clear, very open, and allows you to commune internally. And something that you'll hear a lot from me as you start to grow and understand me as an instructor outside of just these teaching moments with you, but also when we get into more of a mat practice. It's not just asana that we'll be doing, it'll be other things, but when it comes to dhyana and meditation, I take a different thought path towards it. And a lot of other yoga teachers have the very similar thought path, is that meditation is not the practice of quieting your mind. No one expects you to do that, especially living in the society that we live in now. You have to remember that when yoga was developed, it was a very, very different way of life at that time. This is a very ancient practice, and we don't live in an ancient world anymore. At least, we're here and now. If you don't want to get into the very vast conversation of time, but meditation is so much more than trying to quiet your mind. It's more so trying to get to that dhyana space or dharana space where you are having maybe more of a one-pointed focus, so that you can have that openness in your mind to just let what comes come, communing with your soul space, your energy, all of those things that are internal to you, listening to your heart, listening to what's going on inside you that you may not always be able to focus or tune into on a daily basis, because we're running around all the time. We're doing the things, we're taking the kids this place, we gotta take the dog this, and the bills have to get paid, and it's a lot. So meditation is more of a chance for you to just say, hey, me, how you doing? What's going on? Let's check in. And all of the other practices are getting you prepared to be in a space where you can stop and have this moment to talk to you. And then finally, we have Samadhi. And Samadhi, like I mentioned, is releasing yourself from suffering or finding that space of bliss. And the most relatable way that I could probably give you an example of what Samadhi feels like is when you get to Shavasana at the end of a practice. A lot of us feel that, oh, thank goodness, we're finally done. I get to lay back and just relax and close my eyes and take this little nappy nap. I've fallen asleep in Shavasana. I don't know if you have, but I have. And I'm probably never going to stop, because sometimes you just need a little nap. But Shavasana is the greatest example I can give of what Samadhi can feel like in practice. But it's not just in that blissful moment of laying down on your mat and finally having a moment of rest and relaxation after a very vigorous physical practice of the asanas, but it's also just freeing you from the suffering of life. In this modern life that we experience, it's very easy to get swept up into a lot of things that cause suffering inherently, and it's almost unavoidable. But with these practices, you can get there and experience it more frequently. It may come after a very vigorous practice in that Shavasana moment. It may come after a very open and freeing pranayama practice. It may come when you are done meditating for however many minutes or hours you decided to spend in meditation. But it is allowing you to be in that space where you can practice the yamas, practice the niyamas, practice asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, all of those things, in order to just let all of that stuff lift off of your shoulders, lift off of your heart, lift off of your head, and just be in this very content space, this space where that stuff doesn't matter as much. Yes, it's still going to be there, but at least it's not weighing you down anymore. And that's why I love the practice of yoga so much, is because it has got me into a place where I can experience, little bits of samadhi here and there. And I'm not always so focused on trying to chase it as a constant in my life, but being able to find pockets of it that can get me through those moments where I know life is going to throw some things at me. And that's fine. I've got these tools now. I've got these things here that can help me get to that space where I can feel that bliss again. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to learn more, please stick around. we'll have so many more opportunities to dig into all of these concepts, and like I said, find ways to adopt them into not only your physical practice, but other ways that you can practice them in real life. We'll have meditations about certain things. We'll learn so much as we start, learning a little bit more about each other and the full practice of yoga, and embodying it in a way that allows it to become a life thing rather than just something you do recreationally. So again, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you like what you saw, please be sure to come back, subscribe, leave me some comments to let me know your feedback or anything else that you would like to learn more about, anything that you've been curious about. I am happy to share with you. I look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday, and I will see you soon. Bye. The Yoga Sutras is a collection of aphorisms. The Yoga Sutras is a collection of aphorisms. Aphorisms. Why can't I say aphorisms?